Thank you so much, Jon and Soren. This has been incredible. Share the warm feelings that everyone's had towards these last few weeks, this refuge at least. And it was funny, when you did the lake meditation, I've been getting up every morning these last few weeks before work and sitting by a canal nearby us. And
where are you calling from, by the way?
I'm calling from Berlin, Germany.
Okay.
From the UK, but I'm based in Berlin. Yeah, and so the lake meditation, I really felt that. Almost when you go and sit by water every day, you see the different patterns and the forms that nature takes, and you realize there's so many infinite ways that it manifests. And when you view it as like a metaphor for your feelings, or you also reflect on your own feelings, see all the ways that they manifest, it's just becomes incredibly, I've just found it incredibly useful as a way of understanding myself, I guess.
Happy to hear that. Throw out the "I guess" part.
I mean, I'm at peace with the refuge, but what I'm interested in is finding the edge between refuge and action, particularly as we transition out of this kind of retreat. I mean, Germany is like, we seem to have generally dealt with the pandemic pretty well compared to a lot of other countries. And so we already have a sense of life kind of getting back to normal. And I don't know how to feel about that, because I know you've said a few times, you know, life isn't going to be normal again. And part of me feels that, but part of me feels like we need to kind of seize this moment. And I know there's so much risk in that, because it's like the desire to change the world too much can obviously be very ego motivated. And, you know, it's how to find, I don't know if you've, I'm rereading Joan Halifax's books, Standing at the Edge. She talks about this kind of like two sides of a steep path, and walking that line between kind of doing nothing, or like, you know, being passive and you know, being too overwhelmed by everything. I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that, on action and its relation to just refuge, being okay with what is.
Well, although mindfulness is a kind of profound meditative practice and is often engaged in monasteries and in retreat type situations, I've been emphasizing from the very beginning that as long as it's only something that is kind of conducive to those kinds of circumstances, it won't transfer that well into the domain of the larger unfolding of life. And often people do use monasteries or retreats as escape from the sort of, you know, and people have different words for it, the secular being a relatively nice one, but they sort of, but of this kind of world that we're in, samsara. And so the way I language it is that it's not about being entirely, because we're also have to feed ourselves. We have to act. We have to get out there in the world. And I think now we're becoming more and more aware that we can't feed ourselves unless we're farmers and go out and pick some vegetables. That we need other people in the supply chain to bring the food to us in some sense, or for us to go out and get it safely. All of these things, like, so the interconnected is much. So we need doing as well as being. But when the doing comes out of being, when it's cultivated that way through the formal and informal practice of mindfulness, it's an entirely different doing. And then what Joan is talking about is like how to titrate that in such a way that you don't get caught by conventional mind states that just drive us towards ignoring what's fundamental because we've gotten into like acquiring or accumulating more for me or whatever it is. And so we need to go from me as the sort of center of the universe to we, in a way, in the domain of doing. But the only way you can do that is for the doing to come out of being. And no one knows, there's no one right way to do it. There are an infinite number of ways in which water will find its way down the mountain from a high glacier, and it's not stopped by obstacles. But in terms of the details, that's one of the reasons I do the kind of work that I do, is because I have a profound conviction that wherever my voice falls on whoever's ears and so forth, that it will perk, it will connect with something deep within yourself that may not have kind of come to full fruition as of yet. And that recognition actually inspires you and you and you and you and millions of us to actually act in ways that come out of wisdom rather than self-centered, small-minded, greedy self-centeredness and hatred and racism and injustice and everything else, as long as I'm okay or my family is okay, which is hugely important. We want our family and we want to be okay. But if we turn away from, the horrors of other people's lives when they are being oppressed in one way or another, then we're complicit in that oppression in a certain way. So that's the opportunity for now. And there are an infinite number of ways for this to actually unfold in the direction of wisdom, greater health and well-being for all of us. And then there are an even larger infinite number of ways in which it can all go south in an instant. And, if life on this planet winds up being not, in a circumstance that none of us would want to live in or, sort of bequeath to our grandchildren, the universe will care less. This small planet of ours around this insignificant star in this insignificant solar system. I mean, when you actually understand anything about the size of the universe and the nature of what we call the whole, the universe or multiverse, the only people that really have a stake in it, or the only minds or bodies that have a stake in how we turn out, is we the people, as it says in the Constitution of the United States. So we need to wake up to who we is and then get, you know, get it done, do the doing that really needs doing for infinite number of generations to come on a very small and fragile planet that can easily be disrupted. We give the planet a disease, never mind a virus that's, infects human beings. We could give the planet a disease where we throw off the biocycles and the various kind of environmental cycles of carbon and oxygen and water and everything else that, we have a neighbor called Venus that at a certain point, they think lost, whatever water was on that planet. How mindful are we of water? And how much do we take, just even turning the tap or washing our hands or washing the dishes or drinking? How much do we take that for granted and think it'll always be here? It's not here now for millions and millions of people on the planet, maybe billions. So that's the size of the cloth, to use a phrase from Naomi Shihab Nye, a Palestinian American poet, in a poem called Kindness, where she's really advocating that we need to see the size of the cloth, which means wake up. And then she says only kindness make sense anymore. I don't know if that answered your question. I'm finding myself saying that after every question. I don't know if that answered your question, but you
Yeah, I
know,
mean,
that's the trouble with answers.
I very much appreciated the answer, and I mean, I guess I already felt like I had the answer to the question, like you've said before, that you
Good.
already kind of know the answer.
Yeah.
And for me, it seems like it's you know, when you do these falling back exercises, where it's like you have to trust
Right.
that,
Other people to catch you.
yeah. And for me, I sort of see it as like you have to trust that going back into presence is gonna manifest
Yeah.
the
And
right actions.
life is the real meditation teacher. Life is the real meditation teacher. Life is the real curriculum. And that includes the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can't script it so that, hey, I only want to learn these lessons from these nice people. Some of the lessons we have to learn are from people where, you know, we may have huge aversion to even being in their presence. Maybe that's where we most need to learn how to be present. So anyway, Max, thanks for that.
Thanks, Jon.